Welcome to Life, Death, and the Law, presented by the law firm of Deason, Garner, and Hansen, hosted by attorneys Sean Garner and Adam Hansen.
I think the only way you fix the system is by giving the universities some sort of accountability. That's one way to do it, to be able to make them financially accountable for the charges they make. I think the other thing is just the federal loan system in general for student loans is messed up. Like anytime you've got like the government subsidizing anything, it usually goes downhill, and they're just subsidizing tuition at this point. I think it needs to go away.
Adam, what's your thoughts?
Well, what would be the alternative then? Go to the private sector?
Mm-hmm.
That's how it was. I mean,
yeah,
and it worked just fine.
Then why did they get involved if it worked just fine?
Because I think they wanted to see numbers go up. They were tired of seeing well-to-do families go to college and then families that didn't have money not go. And then so they said, well, let's fix that number, let's subsidize. And they fixed the number, but then what happened with the quality of the student? It largely dropped. And it's the same thing that happened in 2008 with the housing market. They were upset with the demographic of homeowners, so they made it easier to obtain loans to people who couldn't pay back mortgages, and it caused the crash. And I think it's the same thing with the student loan market. It's another bubble that will eventually pop.
You see this over and over again with like welfare programs. The more they up the subsidies, the more they up the entitlements, the worse off the people that they're providing them to become. For example, in the 1960s, African Americans were 80% employed, and they were making. Let me start over on that. They made up, man, I'm off on my statistics now, but I believe it was 80% of the income of the national average. Now that's not great. It's not equal, right? It should be 100% of the national average, but they were rising. And if you looked at what they were from Civil War era, the 100 years prior to that, they had made significant advances between the 1860s and the 1960s. But then these welfare and entitlement systems came in the 1960s, and there was this great reform. And they went from having 80% of the families growing up in two-parent homes to 20 years later, it was only 20% of the families growing up in two-parent homes. The statistics totally flipped. And the disparity in the wage gap actually grew over the next 20 years. And so we see that as the more entitlements and the more subsidies that are provided out there, it actually hurts the groups and the subsets that we're actually trying to help and support.
If you have questions or want to know more about something that was discussed today, please call the law firm of Deason, Garner, and Hansen at 928-783-4575 or visit yumaestateplanning.com.